Until 2020 I worked in the British Interplanetary Society building. Their building is visible from the railway passing through Vauxhall, and it's intrigued many people as to what on earth is happening inside. Or perhaps not on earth. In this video we're going to take a look. First of all by setting off up South Lambeth Road here. Until COVID made us all work at home, and indeed before I started this YouTube channel, I lived part-time in South Ealing and worked in Vauxhall at the BIS. Every morning I get the 65 bus down to Kew Garden Station and then the railway into Vauxhall. I do a day of work and then return to Ealing in as many different ways as I could find, just to alleviate the boredom of commuting. So in my time I've taken the river bus from Vauxhall to Putney and continued from there, got to Paddington and then the Great Western to Wheeling Broadway and then the 65 bus. I've done the entire journey by tube, the entire journey by bus. I even walked it once and it took the whole of a June evening to do. I wouldn't really recommend this on a school night. After the global pandemic stopped the need for me to be physically at the office, all this led me instead towards starting this YouTube channel. I'd been finding lots of interesting things to see on every journey home, and only once I was living away from London did I realise that I missed all the discovering. It culminated in this channel on which you are watching this video. And in this video I'm setting off to walk up to the BIS and then on to Vauxhall Station. Before we go inside the building, we'll be looking for a lost river. Indeed it flows past the basement of the BIS too. This part of town has a remarkable amount of Portuguese speakers, or as artificial intelligence would put it. Agora continuaremos para o norte pela South Lambeth Road. So let's continue north along South Lambeth Road. We're just going to take a slight detour here. We're going to go back to the 17th century to tell the tale of John Tradescant. In 1625 he leased an estate in Lambeth and installed his family here. He planted a garden of exotic plants and wrote letters to sea captains, ambassadors and merchants asking them to acquire natural and man-made rarities from the places that they travelled to. These were added to his collection to form the basis of his museum, which was known as Tradescant's Ark. The collection, which was greatly added to by his son, became not only the most extensive in Europe, but more importantly the first to be accessible to the general public in London. The site of the house was demolished around about 1880 for the formation of Tradescant Road, and this road marks the former boundary of the botanical garden that John Tradescant founded. We were at the junction of Tradescant Road and South Lambeth Road. This marked the site of Tradescant House, shown here by a red circle. This house was long abandoned and overgrown and was demolished in 1881. Let's move our position to just a little further north. This is the junction of Old South Lambeth Road. Tradescant House stood at the south end of a major kink in South Lambeth Road and was actually in the way of a plan to straighten the main road. Here's a map of the road layout in the 1860s. The demolition of this house meant that the straightening and widening of South Lambeth Road could take place in 1883. This transformation left a section of the old road to the east, and this is now referred to as Old South Lambeth Road. Here's a map overlaid from the turn of the 20th century, and here's the same view from today. The 1865 map deserves a much closer look, since there are a lot of interesting things upon it. At the northern end of Old South Lambeth Road stood the Beaufoy Vinegar Works. In 1812, John Henry Beaufoy relocated his vinegar brewery to South Lambeth, since the old factory he had was in the way of the proposed Waterloo Bridge. The vinegar factory was here until 1982. Meanwhile, at the top left of the map you can spot the Nine Elms depot of the South Western Railway. This was set up when the London terminus of the railway was Vauxhall rather than Waterloo. Next of interest is the fact that Vauxhall Park was formerly an urban area, occupied by a row of houses called the Lawns. This is why Lawn Lane to the north of the park is called Lawn Lane. In the 1880s a campaign had been launched to create a public park with the influential support of Octavia Hill, the well-known housing reformer. And in 1889 8.5 acres of land were successfully acquired for the development of Vauxhall Park. It was officially opened by the Prince of Wales in July 1890. At the top right of the 1860s map is the Oval Cricket Ground, opened in 1845 on the site of a market garden owned by the Duchy of Cornwall. And just to the south of the Oval is the blue line marking the course of the River Effra. In the 1860s this was open air, now it's buried, but we'll be heading for that soon. I am just going to move that red dot to the 1897 map, and we'll be peering down the modern Wyvil Road. At the other end of this road, past the fantastic Vauxhall Griffin pub, the very first Vauxhall motor cars were manufactured at the Vauxhall Iron Works in 1903. This was on the corner of Wandsworth Road and Wyvil Road here.
Now you know what I sound like on the phone?
Yeah, now I know how you sound like, yeah.
And with one of this one as well, please.
Which one, caramel?
Yeah.
Yeah. You need a bag? What?
Well, here we are in Meadow Road. What are you doing in Meadow Road? I hear you cry. That's not on the way to Vauxhall. We turned right off South Lambeth Road at Tony's, this area's best deli, strolled across Vauxhall Park for seemingly no particular reason, rejoined Fenton Road and arrived here in Meadow Road with a lovely view of the Surinam Point Tower block. I'm now going to make things a little bit confusing by overlaying our route just there upon a map dating from 1829. This is the Greenwood map, and a lot of modern streets and parks haven't yet been laid out. There are instead a lot of large houses in the area. The oval is a bit of a constant though, and it allows us to line up the map. I'll go back to the walk from South Lambeth Road to Meadow Road on the modern view. As overlaid on the 1829 map, the route I took looks like this. We've gone into the grounds of the large houses of the local rich people. There's no Vauxhall Park yet, or Fenton Road, or even Meadow Road. And we've arrived in the middle of nowhere. What's also shown on the 1829 map, but not on the modern view, is the course of the River Effra. This river flows down from Brixton, curves around the Oval, down to South Lambeth Road and exits into the Thames at Effra Creek. Effra Creek would be under the modern St George's Wharf development. And here's the evidence of the river's arrival at the Thames. It's still there. Anyway, back to Meadow Road, we'll tentatively approach the point on the modern map where we would have crossed the River Effra. Alas, no evidence. The Effra would have flowed right past the office of the British Interplanetary Society, which we'll be visiting soon. So perhaps you should introduce yourself and tell us all about the BIS.
So, I'm Simon Feast and I'm the CEO of the British Interplanetary Society. At the time you're filming me in 2023, we are celebrating our 90th birthday.
So what do you do here? It sounds all very mysterious.
Well, we're the oldest space advocacy organisation in the world.
The British Interplanetary Society, that's one hell of a name. It's all very sci-fi.
So, since the beginning, we've been devoted to initiating and promoting new concepts about spaceflight and astronautics.
Astronautics? Well, that's also one hell of a word. What happened at the beginning?
As early as the late 1930s, the Society was at the forefront of ideas for space travel. Even before the Second World War, the Society was devising a project to land people on the Moon. The moon lander had a bit of a different shape, but otherwise the design was like the Apollo lunar module.
So your ideas were quite influential right from the beginning.
Arthur C Clarke was one of the first chairmen of the Society. In 1945, he wrote a technical paper which established the idea of artificial satellites as relay stations for Earth-based communications.
Anybody else we should know about?
Sir Patrick Moore was one of the first editors of our spaceflight magazine.
So what happens in this building nowadays? Do you host aliens and UFOs?
Alas, we're mostly humans in here. We're a membership organisation open to everyone. Amongst many other activities, too much to go into here, we organise lectures, events and conferences. A little bird told me that you organised the annual Reinventing Space conference for us.
Yeah, well, enough about me. I'm here both to nose around the building, but also I've been tracing the route of the lost London River, the Effra, which I discovered while I was working here flows past the basement. Can we go down there?
Well, it's big cavernous down here.
Yes, it goes quite far out the back, but...
So somewhere down here is the buried River Effra, which rises in Brixton and ends up at Vauxhall Bridge.
Yeah. I'll move this out. I'll move some of this out of the way.
You don't need to actually.
No?
We're not going to go that far in. This is the view of the future BIS building from across South Lambeth Road, when it was occupied by the offices of Dalton's Weekly in 1968. When the site was bought by Arthur C Clarke himself, two buildings were combined into one. Alas, the River Effra did pass the basement. The ditch is probably still there, but the waters were diverted by Joseph Bazalgette when he created the London sewer system. We'll walk up South Lambeth Place, the old route of the river, up to Vauxhall Cross. This innocuous branch of Starbucks was once the drag pub, the Elephant and Castle, hence all the elephants and castles here. I assume few modern coffee drinkers have noticed this architectural feature. But this walk is complete. See you next time.